Alright, hello there, and welcome to another Starfield video. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Gun Fu by Young Neil. This is a 500 credit mod that makes it so that essentially you have some options you can change. So headshotting enemies gives you like bullet time, where basically time slows down, and then you can like melee them. So I will say I'm quite critical of some of Young Neil's content, just because it's very much kind of a lot of it is there's some interesting ones here, obviously, but a lot of it is kind of it feels more like someone's personal load order that Young Neil has decided, like his own personal order that he decided to basically kind of charge money for. This one's 500 credits. Now, just kind of going off the price of it, it's kind of a little bit pricey in my book. So yeah, let's jump into it, shall we? We're gonna see is it worth it, and yeah, let's just do that. All right, so we're in game now. I'm just gonna look at so there's configurators in the settings menu, which we're gonna check out. All right, Gun Fu. Strength of time dilation. So you can set it. Default is 30-second sets. What percentage of time is slowed down? The lower the percentage, the more time is dilated. So you can have it time slowed down to 50%. All the way down to time slowed 10%. So we're going to keep it at default. Gun Fu duration, sets how many seconds. We can do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30. We'll keep that default. Gun Fu range breaks bullet time. Sets whether range attacks of the player break bullet time. Is activated by default. Turn off, e.g. if you don't like mixing ranged and melee attack, but want the advantage of bullet times on well-aimed shots. So I think what I seen somebody mention that this is kind of meant to be a little bit like, is it in John Wick, where like he kind of seamlessly blends melee combat and like gunplay. I think that is what the mod author is trying to go for. So we'll keep that on. And then melee breaks bullet time sets whether attacking. I don't know why you would want that off necessarily. Range triggers bullet time. Sets whether range attacks of the player against select body parts outside already active bullet time. Triggers bullet time. It's off or on. Melee triggers bullet time, again off or on. So a couple of caveats with this mod. So first and foremost, it doesn't work on all enemies. It works on most humanoid enemies. I don't know if that's just how the mod author scripted. I'm gonna give myself a knife. Yeah, it doesn't work on all enemies. It's mainly humanoid enemies, which I suppose makes sense. Gonna put a pistol. And it does not seem to. So we're gonna go to our usual spot. It does not seem to work. Like, you can't use it on the same enemy. It is apparently script. They're using scripts. I don't know how script heavy it is going to be. I will say, straight off the bat, this kind of reminds me a little bit of, in the Fallout universe, occasionally you will come across these type of mods in Fallout where it allows you to kind of utilize VATS in a slowdown time, as opposed to VATS being kind of, for anyone not familiar, in Fallout, you can hold a specific button and you can get like a VATS. Basically, it kind of channels the original game, where like you can highlight enemies and shoot specific limbs and stuff. But there's usually mods you can get that essentially kind of replace VATS with just a kind of a time slowdown that would work similar to Jet in Fallout or Aurora. Usually that is kind of, yeah, that usually the way that works with mods is you just have an object you can toggle. Now, I will say, I don't think it would be that hard to have that function as is. I know this mod author is trying to make it like is in, like a John Wick style thing, which again, it makes sense. I just feel like pricing it at 500 credits for like what is essentially like a kind of a, yeah. All right, so we're gonna give it a go. We're gonna see how it works. So apparently, in order to trigger it, you need to cripple a limb. So some things that kind of make me a little bit worried. So there's a few important notes. One of them says only works on human enemies, not on robots, not on fauna, not on starborn, not on normal human civilians. So straight away, that's kind of making it so that this mod doesn't, you know, like if you're trying to go for full playthrough, this mod doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work on robots or fauna. Fauna I can understand, and normal civilians I can kind of understand, but robots and starborn means that this mod is not going to be useful for a good portion of your playthrough. Sometimes it could take more than one shot to cripple it, but to one shot to a body part to cripple it, and therewith activate bullet time again. That's going to be interesting to test. Hitboxing again could be misleading. Don't blame Gun Fu for this. Breaking, I find it interesting, kind of blaming the game. Breaking a bullet time can be delayed by a second or two depending on CPU usage or action on screen. Now, CPU usage is an interesting one because you're selling this mod on Xbox, and, well, yeah. Alright, so there's a guy here. Hello. I'm gonna shoot him. Alright, I've got Gun Fu. Alright, time is slowed down. Haha, stab. Haha. So yeah, so this is essentially you're just kind of utilizing the slow down time perk. I mean, straight off the bat, it's kind of cool. And obviously, just to confirm, I can't trigger it again on the same enemy. Alright, let's try another enemy. Hello. Right, so now I've got it. Oh. So yeah, like, obviously, in-game, there is the slow down time effect, which slows down time itself, the Starborn ability, which you could definitely use over this. Again, that's kind of why I don't understand, like, one of the things I will say with, where kind of I'm going to change some of the settings. One thing where I disagree with, like, some of Young Neil's kind of stuff is we're going to slow down time to 50%. I'm going to set 30 cent, and we're going to just make it so that, basically, gunplay doesn't break it. Just to see what happens. So, I suppose, Young Neil kind of prices his paid mods at, like, a really, I just feel like they're too... In my opinion, they're way too expensive. Because generally speaking, they're going to be very niche mods. And, like, this one is probably the least niche. Like, I feel like a lot of people could definitely benefit from this mod. As you can see, though, with the particle, it is essentially using the Starborn slowdown time. And just allowing you to, yeah... Just to confirm there, let me, once this runs out, I will activate my Starborn slowdown time. Alright, let me activate that. Where time? Phase time. Alright, so as you can see, now phase time itself actually slows down time more. And doesn't really slow down the player character too much. Which is, yeah, that's in itself is interesting. See, it's one of these situations where I feel like the mod author is kind of not really looking at the grand scheme of things of their paid mod. Because... one, it's very overpriced. Two, you're kind of you're convoluting a system that already exists. You're adding a cool kind of activator mechanic. I will say, I think the kind of shooting headshots, that's quite cool. A little activator mechanic. But then you're kind of like making it like the big thing is the fact that it only works on some enemies is kind of like, yeah. Like, I feel like if you're going to, first of all, I don't think it's worth the money they're charging. Second of all, if you're going to charge money for a paid mod, the least you could do is make sure it works on all enemies, because robots are quite prevalent in the campaign. Or in the storyline of the game, as are Starborn. And I feel like, you know, there's going to be a lot of instances where you're just going to not have access as a mod, and yeah. Again, I see what he was trying to do. I think that, realistically, if you were to tweak this a little bit more, so that it works on all enemies, and then charge maybe like 100 credits, I think you'd have a winner, because it is cool. It's a nice kind of alternative to, you know, if you're doing normal combat. Again, though, for a lot of people, especially if you're the sort of person, you could easily just use kind of a mod that gives you it increases your starborn powers, and just you'll be able to spam the slowdown time. Because as you can see with like the slowdown time effect, it actually slows down time quite a lot. This seems to be, like I said, this is capped at 50. Which, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the base slowdown time is. Like, it's a cool mod. Don't get me wrong. Right, look, again, we're gonna use slowdown time real quick, the actual power. Yeah, so the actual phase time slows down time a lot slower. Doesn't last as long, obviously. But yeah, I feel like, and again, in the past, I have kind of thrown some shade at Young Neil, because I do think that, again, I feel like he's selling his, what is essentially his load order, like tweaks the game that he deems kind of, you know, he deems necessary, or not necessary, but, you know, he kind of sees it as like the kind of a, because I think it mentions the so small collection, and I do plan on kind of doing a video kind of highlighting it more in the future. But yeah, I just think that the mod author is maybe slightly delusioned, and I don't mean that in, again, I'm not trying to be insulting, but it's like, you have to realize that, like, Starfield, first of all, you know, Starfield ain't doing too well. We're lacking content from Bethesda, so there's not many people left playing the game. And when you're charging to pay £5 for what is essentially, you know, like some game tweaks, and mod author has other, you know, again, we're focusing on this, but I have to mention it. You're charging like quite a fair amount of money. I think I last checked to run his like specific load order is going to cost more than the kind of the deluxe edition of the game, which says it all. Yeah, and it ultimately it comes down to this sort of thing where, like, I don't think that the mod author is like, I don't think the mod authors do anything malicious personally. I don't think they're like in it to necessarily scam people, but I do think there is a sense of delusion where they maybe need to kind of, again, like, going back to their like big load order that's like several thousands of credits. If you were to combine all them into a pack for like maybe, I don't know, maybe like, hell, maybe like 500 credits, I'd buy them, but I'm not going to spend, you know, 60-70 euro worth of credits, you know, for little game tweaks. This is obviously one of the more interesting ones. Again, I just think it's too pricey, and it doesn't do enough to kind of garner gameplay. Any sort of mod where it's a combat enhancer mod and it's like, oh, it doesn't work on all combat encounters, it's just, yeah. That's pretty much it, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.